Kareem's sky hook is poetry in motion. It's the most graceful and efficient shot in NBA history.
Hold up.
But don't let that fool you. He had his moments where he was a straight savage on the court. You might know him for being a scoring machine, a 6-time champion, and a 6-time MVP. But he didn't become one of the greatest players of all time by being a pushover. In this video, you'll see another side of him that you might not have known was there. The first example takes place in the 1985 Western Conference Finals Series against the Denver Nuggets. He had a couple of moments where he proved that he wasn't the guy that you want to mess with. The first person who saw this firsthand was Schayes. In Game 2, the Nuggets were running away with the game behind a dominant performance by Alex English, who ended up scoring 40 points. The Lakers were getting frustrated, and Kareem was getting fed up with the elbowing from Danny. So he gave him a nice little love tap on the face. That was his first warning that he needed to back off. But he continued his physical play, and he decided to pick on Magic Johnson. They got tangled up after a basket from Alex English, and Kareem decided to stand up for his teammate. He put him in a headlock, and he wrestled him to the ground. He would get thrown out from the game after receiving his second technical. But the message was clear. The Lakers were no longer going to get pushed around. 2 games later, he would end up having one of the most forgotten controversial moments of his career. He took Denver's star player out of the series. He was zaza'd. Let me show you what I mean. With about 5 minutes left in the third quarter, while battling for a rebound with Alex English, he swung an elbow at him. Alex suffered multiple fractures in his right thumb and was sidelined for the rest of the series. Keep in mind that he was averaging over 30 points per game on 56% shooting for the series. But without him on the floor, the Nuggets had no chance to compete with the Lakers. They ended up losing the next 2 games, while Los Angeles moved on to the finals. That one kind of flew under the radar, but this next moment might be the most famous. It's when he gave the number 1 pick in the 1977 draft the ultimate welcome to the NBA moment. If this video teaches you anything, is that Kareem never shied away from a fight. He had immense confidence in himself, and for good reason. Even before his playing days in the NBA, he was good friends with the most famous fighter in the world, Bruce Lee. He would train regularly with him in the off-season before his sudden death. And he put that training to good use against this poor soul. In the first game of the 1977-78 season, the Lakers were visiting the Milwaukee Bucks, Kareem's old team, and he was facing the player that was expected to be a big piece for Milwaukee's future, aka his replacement. This was his moment to showcase to the world his talents. Maybe he got too excited. Maybe the adrenaline was running so high that he couldn't control himself. Because after literally 2 minutes of his NBA career, he decided to elbow the reigning MVP in the stomach. That seemed to knock the wind out of him. This is where the Bruce Lee of the NBA decided to make an appearance. He calmly walked over to the rookie and he sucker punched him in the face. He went down like a sack of potatoes, while Kareem seemed ready for more. Kent Benson received a mild concussion while Kareem fractured his right hand. This cost him to miss the next 6 weeks of the season and to also pay a $5,000 fine. It was a price he was willing to pay to teach this rookie his place in the food chain. That lesson applies to 99% of all rookies, unless you have been dubbed the next great center of the NBA. Lou Alcindor had high expectations coming out of UCLA. He had the luxury of being in the same city as the player who was the most dominant force in all of sports, Wilt Chamberlain. Fortunately, he decided to take the rookie under his wing. They had a pretty close relationship during this time. So in the summer of 1969, while Kareem was getting ready for his first season in the NBA, he decided to join the 11th annual Stokes game in New York. There was a huge crowd that was ready to see the first unofficial meeting between Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem. Of course, there is no footage of this game, but we'll use our imagination while I read off the reports that Garth Williams wrote for the magazine Sports Today in 1973. In one of the first possessions of the game, Wilt went down low as his team took the ball on offense. He took the pass, and without showing any hesitation, he slammed the ball right on the rookie's grill. There was a look of smug self-satisfaction on his face as he jogged back up the floor. How was the rookie going to respond to this? Was he going to simply accept his place in the hierarchy of the NBA? Absolutely not. He was not going to back down. In the very next play, Kareem stationed himself to the right of the basket. He grabbed the pass, faked a pass, and he dunked on the Giant. He proved that he was ready for the big leagues and that he could hold his own against the best of the best. The last example involves another one of Kareem's rivals, Bob Lanier. He is a Hall of Fame center who played for the Detroit Pistons in the 70s. In this case, he wasn't going to use physical force against his brutal enforcer. He was going to play mind games, and he was going to channel another one of his inspirations. This specific person was a fictional character, Sherlock Holmes. He was a big fan of the books, and he adopted a detective-like approach to uncover his rival's weaknesses. This is what Sports Illustrated wrote about how Kareem used this to gain a competitive edge. Quote, inspired by how Holmes eavesdropped on the Baker Street irregulars, the Urshins who picked up scraps of information on the streets, he would listen in on the NBA's ball boys and locker room attendants for anything that might give him an edge. He learned that Pistons center Bob Lanier sneaked a cigarette at halftime, which led Kareem to run him hard late in games. End of quote. Why did Kareem feel the need to do this? Bob Lanier used his physicality to bother Kareem, and he had a lot of success in 1975 and 1976. Check out a few of his stat lines during those 2 seasons. There was one game where Kareem went 3 of 15 from the field. Imagine containing arguably the greatest scorer of all time to 20% from the field. There was another game where he went 8 of 31 from the field. In their very next meeting, he went 9 of 24 from the field. He was having trouble being his normal efficient self against his legendary defender. Although he wasn't as strong as him, he was in much better condition. Thanks to his detective skills, he punished Bob Lanier in the final quarter. After that performance, where he shot 20% from the field, he had 8 games where he shot over 60%. The Sherlock Holmes of the NBA did whatever it took to push his team to victory. Well, that's all the examples that we're going to mention today. What is your favorite story of Kareem being a menace on the court? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.